I'm just going to start it now. Oh, hello everyone. Welcome to today's section. Today I have a friend who I met at Memorial University. She's a PhD student in biochemistry. So she's going to be sharing her experiences today of how she transitions from India all the way to Canada for her PhD program. And I'm very hopeful that her story and her experience is going to inspire you a lot. So just don't go away. All right, so let's get started. So I'm very excited to have you. So can you just tell us your name, your full name, and then where you're from, and probably the school you attended back in your country?
All right, thank you for the opportunity, Peter. Hi, everybody, and thank you for showing up in Peter's channel.
Thank you.
I am Shreyasi Sarkar, and I came all the way from India to Canada 4 years back for my PhD in biochemistry, as Peter already explained.
All right, great. So so before coming to Canada, what like experience, what was like your educational qualification and what program did you do like previously in India?
Yeah, so I started off with my early career, doing a bachelor's in chemistry. So I did
Okay,
a major. So it was like we didn't have honors, like it was a different system there. So we did
okay,
I had a major in chemistry and minor in botany, zoology, and environmental science. And then after that, I transitioned to medicinal chemistry for my master's in India.
okay.
And after that, so those were, I don't know how familiar they are around the world, but they were all done from University of Pune. And then after that, I moved on to Canada for my PhD.
All right, it's great. So, how did you, in terms of you deciding the country you're going to go? I mean, obviously Canada is not the only country in the world. There is United States, there is UK, there is Germany. So how did you finally decide you want to come to Canada and not any other country?
Well, honestly, Peter, it was kind of, uh, I was definitely looking at different places and looking at different work being done by different, researchers. And the kind of work that I'm working on now is kind of based on a novel set of compounds. So it was mostly the kind of work that led me to this place and not
Okay.
just the place itself. Like I did not have Canada set in my mind, obviously, but the kind of work that I got attracted to, and also many other things, the university, the supervisor, the funding support that I was getting. So yeah, all of this actually just played out, and St. John's, Newfoundland was actually the place that just happened.
Okay. So you're currently at Memorial University now. So because I know a lot of my viewers or subscribers or followers, they always want to, they're always very curious to know, how do you get to search for schools? How do you choose supervisor? And then, how do you get to contact the professor in the department that you actually want to apply to? So do you want to share a little bit about that experience, how you actually got your supervisor now?
Yes, and I would say that it was a big struggle. It is not easy because it took months of work.
Oh, wow.
And I had just finished my master's, and I was doing an internship at the time.
Okay.
So it was a very stressful period because yes, it is, it's a very depressing period. B, you want to keep going and keep your learning process. You have to keep yourself active. You cannot just sit around and look around for supervisors. That doesn't help. So being depressed, And facing rejections, let's face it, I face rejections, and I got other opportunities as well, but um, it got uh, it got very difficult. As I said in my previous answer, I had to factor in so many aspects to decide on this particular field of work that I am in. So,
Okay.
but I would say, like, with the current position that I'm in, it wasn't as difficult because my supervisor was very interactive with me and very supportive. I did have an online interview
Okay.
before he accepted me.
Okay.
And there was actually exchanges of just 4 or 5 emails and the interview, and then he decided that yes, he was happy to take me on. And yeah, after 5 months, I was here starting my
Wow.
program.
That was really very fast. So after your Skype interview, then he accepted. That was when you actually started to submit application for your admission.
Yes. So
Okay.
I actually got in touch with my supervisor around in March, mid of
Okay.
March, and I got my offer by April. And so yeah, and then everything, the university official application process started after I got his approval, because that's how it works here.
Okay. I just remembered something now. It wasn't part of the plan, but when I came to Memorial University in 2017, that was in May. So I didn't know anybody, so I was trying to get to meet some new graduate students, and then so Shreyasi was actually the first graduate student in biochemistry that I met. Like, hey, I'm a new master student, and then so she introduced herself to me, and then we just got talking, right? So she was actually the first master student that I got in contact with, and we've been friends since then. It's been a very wonderful experiences. And anyway, I'm going to talk about some other stories about us later in the conversation. All right, so I feel this pattern is really very important, for people to understand, because I've seen people that have mentioned to me that, oh, I've submitted application for this school and then they rejected the application because there was no supervisor. It happened to me, right? I didn't know, right?
Mhm,
But when I started up, I applied to the University of Ottawa. I
mhm.
didn't know that you needed to get a supervisor, and then they got back to me and like, hey, just relate with any professor, and if you see anyone that is interested in you, then we'll give you
Right.
admission. But I tried, rejections. So when you mentioned that rejection, I wanted it was a very important points that you made, so that people will know that rejection is part of the process.
Oh yes, definitely,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah. I've never seen a I've never seen a single graduate student that just got it in his or her first try.
Mm-hmm.
Just a first email, and so it's usually a lot of work,
Right.
processes and all that. Okay, so once you submitted your application for admission, then you already got your supervisor, right? So you included it in your like admission package. That okay,
Yes.
okay. Do
So
you
yeah, sorry,
Yeah,
go on.
continue. Yeah, you go ahead first.
Yeah, so that is one thing that I would really, really, really have to stress on, especially if you're coming into a research-based program. Finding a supervisor is a must. I mean,
Mhm.
even though the university requires it or doesn't require it, if you want funding, if you want acceptance, if you have a supervisor's recommendation, even if the university doesn't require approval, even if you have spoken to a supervisor and if the supervisor has said that yes, do mention in your application that you would like to work with me, please do so. Please definitely go and talk to somebody who is interested in taking you, will be willing to fund you before you make your official application, because they are expensive.
Yes,
Application fees are a lot.
that's right.
And
You don't want to be throwing. It's maybe
yes,
before you come, you might think, oh, it's a very small money, but when you come and see how much $150 or $120 can do, that can give you like 2 weeks of groceries, right? Or so it's important to really stick by the rules, and it's clearly stated in the departmental website that you need to secure a supervisor. If not, your admission is just not going to be processed, because it's um it's about what are the available spaces in the lab. Okay, so you might have a very good background. Maybe you had a first class or distinction in your undergrad, or you did masters and you have like excellent results, and you email professors and they tell you they don't have funding. They're not lying. Okay,
Yeah.
so if their lab space are full, there
Like,
is, you know, there is no, because each lab there is a certain spots for each student, so they can't take, above what they can handle per time. All right, and then once you got the admission, then the next thing was to apply for the visa, right? Did you like apply online, or you did like the paper application?
so I don't know how it works everywhere around the world except for India. So I had to actually do it through VFS, Global Visa Application Center, and it was an online application, but then I did have to print out all the application, go into the VFS office to
Okay.
submit my application
Okay.
in person. So the filling up part was online, but then after
Okay.
that, I had to go in person and submit everything.
Okay. Yeah, so in it's the same thing in Nigeria. So that's what they called paper application. So you
Mhm.
print out all the documents, you fill it online, all the PDFs and everything. You
Yeah.
print everything out, sign, and then you go and submit at the VFS office. So
Mhm.
mine, I didn't print out anything.
Okay.
So I just filled out everything online, submitted. So once you submit online, they will do like a kind of a verification online to for you to seek sign and all that. So once you do that, the application is received.
Mhm.
However, maybe after 2 days or so, they are going to send you an email to go and do your biometrics.
Yes. Yeah,
hmm
they do.
So whether you
Yeah.
submitted online or paper, you still have to go to VFS office to do your biometrics. Okay.
Mhm. Yes.
All right. And then, so one other question people usually ask me. Sorry, I'm going back to the admission process. So there's a point they will ask you to describe, like maybe write a little statement of interest,
Mhm.
just to kind of describe, maybe your research. So how did you discuss with your supervisor about the project, or you just, did you have a project in mind, or you just, were open to whatever projects that the supervisor had available?
So for me, I was actually interested in the particular project. So
Okay.
that's how I grew about writing my statement of interest.
Okay.
Because my supervisor mentioned on his webpage that when anybody who is interested has to is if they're interested in working with with my supervisor, they'll have to provide a statement of interest first, and then
Okay.
he responds to you. So I had
Okay.
to submit that. He had, in spite of the university requirements, he also asked me to submit my transcript separately. He looked at my statement of interest separately. He looked at my CV separately. Then he responded to me. So he
Okay.
had already asked for all of this information when he wanted a person who is interested to contact him. So he had already looked into this, and he saw that in my statement of interest I had mentioned that this project is what I'm interested in, and this project is what I would be able to contribute to, having past experience working with similar things.
Okay.
So
All right, that's great. Sorry, in case anyone you're listening and hearing some background noise. I'm actually outside of the house. It's a very beautiful evening here in Abeda, so I'm trying to feel the real atmosphere. So there is a a construction site just right across my house. So it's a very natural sound. So don't just focus on the content, all right? Don't be distracted by the noise. Okay.
Unlike your Peter, I
Yeah.
envy you right now. It's all dark out here. It's
Yeah.
just 3.5 hours away, and such a
Yeah. Sometimes it gets to around like 9:30, like close to 10 p.m. here, and sometimes it's still very bright. All right. That's great. And so it means that now, because I've seen some people also asking me the question of can I apply for the scholarship, or it is the once the supervisor accepts me, then the supervisor is the one that will offer me the funding. All right. So it means now you didn't really focus on the funding, you focus on the supervisor because it's the supervisor that normally have access to the funding and give you funding once you have been accepted.
hmm yeah.
Great.
So how it goes now around in MUN, if you remember, supervisor pays part of your funding, and the School of Graduate Studies pays part of your funding. So that is why they say, even if you have, so well, that's the other part of the application. So first is where you get the supervisor's approval, and then you need to fill in all the criterias that are required by School of Graduate Studies of the particular university, because the way funding works is part of your funding comes from your supervisor's grant, and the other part of your funding comes from School of Graduate Studies. Ideally, that's what the case is. But then there are other sort of funding options available as well, where your entire funding comes from NSERC or through one-year scholarship. That's a totally different case. But this is what generally happens. So where 50, or whichever the whatever the ratio is, some part of your funding is paid by a supervisor and some part by School of Graduate Studies. So after getting your supervisor's approval, you'll have to fill in all the criteria that are required by School of Graduate Studies to obtain funding.
Okay, yeah, that's a very interesting point. So that's why meeting the minimum requirement for the School of Graduate Studies is really very, very important,
Mhm.
so that they can, it's the same thing that it works here at the University of Abeda. So when I was coming in, so after I got my admission, then the supervisor already had like funding, and then she nominated me for like this Dean scholarship, especially
Mm.
if your CGPA is like a distinction average. So they nominate you for. So she nominated me for the recruitment award. So that comes from the school directly. So
Okay.
then her funding is not going to be reduced, right? So she's going to save a lot of money in the
Yes,
first year.
exactly.
So don't blame supervisors sometimes when they are looking for students with very high CGPA. It saves them money. You know, you can get,
Well, it doesn't only save their money, but it helps them trust them because they're trusting
yes,
them with their project to
that's right.
you. So it's
That's
a
right.
good thing.
Yeah, I think we're having this conversation before the section started. Is that it's not yeah. Sometimes we are very excited to have supervisors. We are very excited. Oh, I'm very glad I can work with these supervisors. But indirectly, they are also very excited to have students like us in their lab. You know, someone like someone like Shreyashi, for example. I always enjoyed going to her presentation, and I know whenever he's presenting in the supervisor's mind, like, yes, that's my student, you know, that kind of experience. So it's really, putting yourself in that position that your supervisor will be proud to introduce you anywhere. Oh, this is my student, this is my students, right? And then you're doing presentations, you're winning awards and everything, right? So she actually has won all the awards in the Department of Biochemistry at the moment. So she is the one when it comes to present. I know then whenever we are doing any presentation, and then if it's competition, if she's there, and I'm going to be presenting, I'll just know, oh, okay.
Oh, oh.
After they ranked her, maybe I will not come second, something like that. So yeah,
Oh my
I loved it. Your presentation style, it's amazing. The way the enthusiasm you put in your research work, and how those trace amine associated tar 1 tar 1 tar 2 and all those trace amine. So I really had good time, even though I'm not in the pharmacology and those medicinal, those products and all that. But by the time she do the presentation, the OC2 transporter, oh my goodness, you need to
remember
hear that.
yeah.
He said
You remember everything.
everything. Remember we used to work together in the cell culture room.
Yeah.
So she's doing this experiment, and so one thing I like about you're really very serious when you're doing the experiment, because you don't want to make any mistake.
Oh
And
yes.
you know
Very
so
stressful.
yeah, so because I know some of those, you call them, I borrowed your term, you call them long experiments. So uh anyway,
Yeah,
we are good.
they used to start at 8:30 in the morning sometimes, and used to go on till 6 p.m. in the evening. And oh my God, that was a nightmare. But
Yeah, it
uh,
is it's a lot of work, when I came here, my supervisor was interviewing me, and she said, "Oh, I'm going to be working in the lab 9 a.m. to 5 p.m." I didn't want to argue right away, because I was like, "No way! How can I be in the school from 9 to 5 p.m.?" But when I started doing my experiment, sometimes like 7 8 p.m. you're still in the lab, right? So
exactly,
yeah,
it's 7 or 8 p.m. It's just your afternoon.
yep, yes. Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's great. That's great. Yeah. Okay. So as a PhD, I think we've already started that line of conversation. So as a PhD student, so what's the typical day like for you? I think we've already talked about your busy day. Just generally, what are some of the things you do, like on a regular routine, maybe lab meeting, present, or some things like that?
Yeah, so basically, there's no weekend for me, as you
Wow.
know.
Wow.
Uh, Typically 7 days a week. I wouldn't say 24/7, but 7 days a week is work because, with the way life sciences experiments go, it's kind of like you will have to go in. You might have to go in unexpectedly. Like you cannot really, you will have to plan your experiments ahead, but then sometimes your cells, the kind of cell lines that you're growing, they start growing unexpectedly. And you just have to plan an experiment on a day you were not at all mentally prepared to work on one. So
Yes.
that's how my week goes, and it's kind of like I have to be in the lab most of the times, and I prefer to be there during the actual times when I'm productive, because I feel I'm more productive when I'm in the lab rather than when I'm in the house, which is really taking a toll on me right now. But so yeah, it's basically 9 to 5 for me in the labs. If I have long experiments, it's probably 9 to 9 for me, or even more than that sometimes. And weekends are also kind of like, I'm just there because I just like to work, and gives me a sense of, like, okay, I'm not screwing my experiments up. And also, we have weekly lab meetings,
Okay.
and we have weekly journal clubs as well with other labs, which is very helpful because that helps you talk to or get questions from people who are not from your field. So those kind of questions are really valuable because it sometimes helps you as well think from a different perspective too,
That's
because
right.
ultimately it's all about communicating your work to the
That's
public,
that's
or
right.
to the public basically. Because if you cannot communicate what you're trying to study, then there's no point doing it.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically it for me now that I'm done with my coursework requirements for my PhD, my comprehensive exam. that's literally what it is for me right now, my regular
Absolutely.
PhD.
Yeah, so we used to have like do lab meetings together when I was at Mon. So Fridays, you know, either she present or someone from another lab. It's just a very good way to, get to learn what other people are doing. I know, there was a time we maybe we're having issues with there was a time myself, my supervisor, were kind of having challenges with ourselves and all that. And then you bring up the issues in lab
Lab.
meetings, right? And then your supervisor made comments, and then the other professor made. So you just kind of learn, right? And especially when you are as you're working, it's good to discuss alongside your work and your design, so that you don't want to do something, maybe not add a particular control in your experiment, and at the end, when you're not
Yeah.
trying to write a manuscript, they're like, oh, this is a fatal mistake, right? So
Or the kind of statistical analysis you're doing.
yes, yes,
Get a
yes,
lot
yes.
of advices on that, which is really, really helpful.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Great, great. Okay, so that's that for that. It's so if you come here, expect to be busy. So that's the rule. Just expect to be busy. You remember those times, I'll come in on Saturday evening, and I was like, it was only me that is going to be in this building, and then I will see her in the cell culture room, right? Doing one experiment and all that. So it's especially if you're working with cells, like you plan your experiment for this evening, you come and then your cells are not ready, right?
Yeah,
And,
exactly. That
and
also happens.
yeah, and sometimes you're planning to be ready tomorrow, and then they just grow, and you can't leave them to tomorrow because they are going to get anyway. We're not
Right.
going deep
Very
into sciences now, so it's just a general guide to,
yeah.
every graduate student, PhD student, irrespective of the field you are coming in. But this is just because we're scientists, so we are proud to be scientists. We are proud to be, working in the biochemistry labs. So that's why we're just talking about it. Okay. Um, do you want to talk about? I know that I've seen some people. They already have master's degree, and then they are planning to come for PhD, but they can't get a PhD position. Then, possibility of starting up with a master's and then transferring to a PhD. You have a wealth of experience in that process, so do you just want to, throw a little bit of light on that process?
Yes, I would say don't take it as a bad thing. I would say I would really recommend taking that opportunity because that is actually a good way to understand that your supervisor wants to give you that opportunity, but then there is probably something lacking from your profile which is preventing you from getting the PhD doctoral position. So what he wants you to do, what he or she wants you to do, is first get the training of how a master's student life is going to be like, or what is expected of a master's student. Get that training, and then maybe within a year, if he or she likes your work, he can ask you to transfer. So I would say it is, uh, since the systems are so different, I'm not really familiar with how the system is in Nigeria. But in India, I'm speaking from the Indian curriculum, it is definitely different because I don't know how things have advanced now, but from the environment that I came in, it was whatever I learned in my master's level is what students learn here during their bachelor's.
That's
So,
right.
I mean, students here doing bachelor's honors project is literally what a master's, I mean, what can be considered a master's degree also in some cases.
Yep.
And so that is why I kind of feel like students get more exposure here, hands-on training, and that is what is supervisors kind of look for in international students as well. So since they see that you do not have that that training with you, which is ideally the case for students coming from India, because they don't have that much of training at a master's level. So that is why you're expected to get that training by coming in as a master's student first, and
And
then
learning.
learning and building yourself, and then automatically you can discuss this with your supervisor beforehand, that will I be able to transfer. And then if he tells you yes, definitely, but please get this training beforehand, you prove to him that you can, and then you definitely go ahead with the transfer procedure, however it works in different universities, and then you get transferred to a PhD student.
All right, that's very important, So, but it's based on the level of trust and the level of productivity you have produced in the first 1 year of your master's program. So, especially sometimes we as international, like she mentioned, right? So we don't really have a lot of these, theoretical, practical experiences that like the undergrads have access to here.
Right.
They have advantages to a lot of access to everything. That's why sometimes some students, some schools even admit some students directly into PhD, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's not very common, but it does happen. Okay, so sometimes PhD graduate school is not a bed of roses. Everyone has. I don't know about you, but at some point I felt like, what brought me into this? I don't think I can continue any longer. So I've thought about that at some few, when I was experiencing some challenges in my research, right? So what has been that moment for you where you felt like, no, this is just too much for me in your program?
Yeah, it can be very overwhelming at times. Very overwhelming. And especially you tend to not be a part of social media at that point, because uh, you wouldn't expect anybody to understand what you're going through, because you cannot explain your scientific jargons to them
That's
and
right.
your scientific problems to them. So, but it's just, you are the one, as I have been told, you are the one who took this decision. So you were the one who knew what the risks would be, and you were the one who knew what the outcome would be. So you were the one to take this decision. So it's up to you to fulfill it to the best. So
Okay.
just have to go by with that and keep continuing, and ultimately you will be rewarded.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I just got a message from my supervisor. There was a project I was working on. I don't know if you remember the breast milk projects that I was working on then, so, you know, I just got a email from my professor not long ago that the papers that our collaborators submitted was accepted for publication.
Oh my, that's amazing news. Congratulations.
So when I did like an experiment in that paper. When I was reading it, I was like, yeah, that's my experiment. That's my,
That is so amazing.
I was one that wrote like the method section for that particular experiment. So when I was reading, I was like, okay, this is great. This is really amazing. So, and it's a lot of work, but at the end, you're going to, when I came here to University of Alberta, a lot of the students already knew me. I was like, how? So they were saying my supervisor actually came here to deliver a seminar, and then she actually talked about my work,
Hmm.
a lot in the presentation, and then she was like, "Oh, it's Peter that is actually doing this project," So when I came, because she was just saying, "Oh, she went for the CNS conference and this and all those,
Yeah,
big hypings and all that." So when
right.
I came, they're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I remember your supervisor. Yeah, she mentioned you and your project then, because they were really, even when I came here, I was presenting the same work to them. They were really very excited to hear it because it's not a very common experiment that people do, right? So, combining in vitro and in vivo together, right?
Oh
So,
yes, that's a challenge.
yeah, it's and what was really very interesting was, so actually now we're writing our own in vitro study manuscript, like it's almost ready for submission.
Wow,
What it,
you're fast, Peter. You only
yeah.
passed January.
No, well, it's the not the I mean the one at Mon, like when I was for my
Oh,
masters,
okay,
right?
okay.
Yeah. So yeah, so the project that I did there, so we're just trying to do some finalization and to submit. So that's that for that. So it's a lot of work, but there is reward usually
Mhm.
at the end. Just keep it going, right? Just keep it
Yeah,
going.
that's the thing. Like with by being a graduate student, you will have to multitask. I mean, starting from managing the lab to supervising junior students, writing manuscripts, writing reviews.
Teaching
It's
assistant,
too many teaching assistantship. Oh my God, that's like a whole different thing. So participating in so many things, it's going to take up a lot of your sleep, and you will have to multitask. That is one
that's
of the strongest thing.
That's right.
That,
That's right. It's I think that's one of the things that I learned. Okay, I think we're going to talk about that. So, we've been talking about lab now. So let's move a little bit away from the lab. So outside of the lab, I know you like fun a lot, even though you don't have time to do it, but I know you love fun. So can you share a little bit about, how do you relax when you have the time to, maybe outside of the lab?
yeah. So I love reading.
Oh, okay.
So right now I'm gonna show you this. This it was gifted to me by one of my uncles.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Trying to
wow.
finish this right now, and I was
Wow.
happy that you gave it to me at the right time. It's Your PhD Companion by Stephen Marshall and Nick Green, and
Oh,
it
oh,
really talks about uh, the hardships that you face. And it's when I read this, I kind of feel like, okay, it's
okay.
just not me. I mean, there's so many people who go through the same thing, and how you have to overcome everything. So yeah, reading, and I'm happy that I got to do more of not my literature review reading, but outside reading as well, thanks to
Okay.
COVID. Um, Reading is one of the things I like cooking, experimenting with cooking.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
That I can attest to that. I know the times, we've had to go for her birthday celebration or her sister's, it's food everywhere. She was like, oh, come and taste this food, come and taste this food. And it's always, I know, I can attest to that. Yeah.
And along with that, what I've started a hobby that was long forgotten. I've recently started painting again. So
Oh, nice.
that's something that I'm really enjoying now, and I'm making
Okay.
sure I do at least one painting a week.
Wow, wow.
And yeah, definitely meeting up with friends, sleepovers. Those are there.
Yeah, if you want fun, if you want fun outside of lab and you just call her, if she's free, she would definitely, oh, let's go. Yeah, it's well, because of time, I actually you know,
Oh,
I don't,
really?
yeah, I
Oh,
do.
you should post. You should post things. You should do a video about you painting or something like that. I've never seen paintings.
I haven't done that for a very long time because of, when the graduate school just killed all my time. So I do like portraits, artwork, take people's picture, draw it and frame it and all that. So it's usually very, very beautiful. I'm going to be
It's
maybe
stress
just,
relieving.
yeah, yeah. So I'm going to you know, be, maybe I'm going to look for like where they sell some of the materials here at some point, just, you know, playing some music, just painting is very relaxing, right? So I'm going
Definitely.
to start something like that and just see how it goes. Okay, so time is already fast spent. So like what she mentioned is important really getting motivation outside of your graduate program is very important, outside of your lab work.
Right.
You need
It
to
is
find
difficult, but
yeah,
to make it happen.
you need to find something that will motivate you always because sometimes I do experiment for 2, 3, 1 week. It doesn't work.
Oh
You
my
just
God.
go home and then you just need to relax. Like I read a lot. I read books a lot. Listening to. There was a time I was virtually listening to TED talks every day because
Wow.
when I
Nice.
come when I come back home, I'm so frustrated with the lab experiments that didn't work. I'm like, I just want to listen to something that would tell me, you
Right.
can move up and all those things. So finding those balance, seeing things that will balance, things that you need to see a place to draw strength from.
Right.
Okay, for me it was either doing those hobbies or church. When I go to church and I feel really revived, and then I have energy to continue again, right? So finding that balance is really very important. Okay, all right. Our last conversation for today. So what is your experience about maybe people contacting you, and what are some of the questions you get from people that email you on message on LinkedIn, on Facebook, that are planning to come to Canada? What kind of questions do they ask you, and how do you respond to them?
Yeah, so I do get lots of questions on LinkedIn. I've even started getting questions on Instagram, which I do not prefer because it's kind of a work related question. What I generally get is you know the general question people have is about the application process and how to look for a supervisor.
Yeah,
So what I tell them is, whatever I discussed here, you have to keep writing to them, and it's not just just opening up a university website, emailing all the faculty there. You need to go through their projects, you need to read their work, because you need to show them how you can contribute to their project with the experience you have. So, and it's all up to you, because I won't be able to help you decide what you would like to work on. So
absolutely.
only solution to that is opening up their websites, going through all the faculty profiles, going through all the work they do, and also going through some of the papers if possible. And then, I know it's a lot of work. Maybe most of the supervisors or professors you write to, after reading all their work, they won't even get back to you. I
Yeah,
understand that. That is very depressing. As I said earlier, it is a very depressing process, but that's just how it is. You just have to be motivated, keep networking. I would say networking definitely helps. If you go to conferences, just try and talk to people, uh, the guest speaker, and just be in touch.
yeah,
But yes, definitely read through their work and then decide and then write to them, because they understand.
yeah.
If you just writing a blank email, they know that you don't know anything
Generic.
about the work.
They call it generic email.
Yeah, yeah. So
Mhm.
make sure you do not fall in that category, and you're actually doing it the right way.
Absolutely. All right. That's great. That's great. So, all right, you've heard it from Shreyasi, and she's been an amazing friend, and I thought it was wise, sharing her own experience will really, help people to, really streamline your search process and knowing what to do part time. So I trust and I hope that this section has really been very informative, for the viewers and anyone watching at this point in time, irrespective of, wherever you're watching from all over the world.
Mhm.
So I'm going to be talking with some other persons, as time progress. And yeah, so I just want to appreciate Shreyasi for coming. I just told her, like, was it a week ago or so? So she's like, oh,
This is what we decided.
yeah. So we didn't really, because it's something, is part of us, right? So we can talk about that at any point in time. So thank you very much for spending your time to come and share your experience with us. I really appreciate your time, and Um, so if anyone has any question, something that we didn't cover, so you can leave a comment in like in the comments. If you're watching in on YouTube, you can just drop a comment in the question, and then if you want to contact me on Facebook, on LinkedIn, you can send me a message. I might not reply immediately, because I'm kind of really very busy with work. I'm also doing PhD here at the University of Alberta, so it's quite a very busy thing for us as PhD students, as she has rightly said. So it might take a couple of days, to respond to you, but I will try my best to respond to you. And then if you haven't, watched some other of my videos, I can also link you to, give you the link to watch some other videos so that you'll be properly guided. Okay, so that'll be it for today, and we will communicate. We'll communicate with everyone when next I'll be having next guest on the program just to share experiences. Thank you everyone, and have a lovely day. And if this is your first time of watching my videos, just do it. So if you like the video, just subscribe, and then share with your friends as well, so that share my channel with them, so that they can also watch some other of my videos, and then share and subscribe, so that with the more subscribers I get, the more I don't get paid for doing this, so at least for now, but I feel the information that is being shared is helping a lot of people, right? So just keep sharing so that your friends can watch and subscribe as well. Okay. All right. Thank you.
I have an
Okay.
idea for
Yes.
next year, Peter. Maybe you
Okay.
should do what PhD students can do to relax themselves video. That's
Okay.
for
Can you
next week.
repeat that?
Maybe what PhD students should do to relax.
Oh, okay.
That's
All
for
right.
next video.
All right. That
If
will
you
be
guys want to
that.
watch that video, please share that
that
video.
that would be really really great. I would really, I can even maybe talk with like maybe two or it can be like two or three persons just sharing their experiences, what they do outside of lab and how they relax, right?
Yeah.
All right, that would be great. I'm really looking forward to that. I will definitely let you know whenever I'm planning something like that. Okay, all right, have a wonderful day everyone.